Hello listeners, welcome to Random Fandom. My name is Shiri. I'm a podcaster. I love podcasts. I love both listening to and making podcasts. And this one is all about that magical world of fan culture, fan communities, all kinds of geeky things that we love so much. I see myself as a fan of fandoms. I find it fascinating, the whole phenomenon, and I'm obviously part of it, and I just love it. So on this podcast, we'll be discussing what's going on in various fandoms around the world, and from time to time, I will be interviewing fans, usually of small and more obscure fandoms, because I think it's very different than being a fan of like a mega fandom. It's a whole other thing, but basically all fandoms are the same, and I find it just so wonderful to see people talk about, those shows they love so much, that book that they can never get out of their heads, and their community and the friends they made through those communities, inner jokes and their relationship with the creators, and there's so much to talk about. Fan fiction, for the love of God. It's just a whole ocean of a world of amazing, fascinating things. So that's what this podcast is all about. We'll talk about things that are happening, and we'll talk to people who are living it. But this first show doesn't have an interview portion, just some lively conversation and debate with my wonderful co-host, Chen Drachman. Enjoy! Welcome to our new podcast. This podcast is called Random Fandom, and it aims to talk about everything fandom, pop culture in the world, which is basically everything, right?
Yes, somehow everything goes back to fandom.
Exactly. Everything, the whole world is right there in fandoms, and we feel very strongly about it. We are two Israeli girls. I live in Tel Aviv. My name is Shiri. And with me is Chen, who lives in New York. Hi, Chen.
Hi, Shiri.
And we go way, way back to the times where Chen actually lived in Tel Aviv. Oh, that wasn't ever Tel Aviv, was it?
No, Holon.
You lived somewhere else. Another part of Israel, but to me,
practically the same thing.
Yeah. To me, everything is either the big city, Tel Aviv, or nowhere. Nothing at all exists outside of it. So I'm a little biased. So,
sounds like a true New Yorker.
Exactly. In my soul, I am a true New Yorker. So, us girls, we met and became friends in the Buffy fandom in Israel. That we used to have a huge Buffy fandom in Israel back in the day. Just Whedon in general, all things Whedon we loved over there, and still kind of do. But it's not like the big thing it was 15 years ago, as you can imagine. But we were all very active in that fandom. Do you remember those Haiti days?
Yeah, of course. We had, we can't really call it a fan club because it was so much more, but we had what we call the Sunnydale Embassy in Israel, organized so many events. It was very exciting, such a sense of community.
We were a very creative bunch. Everything we did was huge. Everything had to be like, it wasn't just let's all get together and watch episodes. We had to have Buffy themed parties every year, and we went on stage and we did plays, and we had the Angel musical, which was completely original musical, an amazing production that I directed.
Yeah, and indeed, that you directed, and if memory serves, usually these events were sold out, and we had to open,
of course,
at least one more performance in every convention. So
yeah, it was a huge deal here. We were a very, very noisy bunch of fans.
Charmingly noisy.
Of course. Buffy in general and the whole Buffy fandom, very, very close to our hearts, and very important. I can say as regards to myself, very important to me as a person. Joss Whedon's work really helped me to be the person that I am today, and very dear to my heart. And so we are diving right in to our first topic of discussion in this very first episode. And that's the whole Whedon gate that's raging outside right now. things are happening. Things are happening in Joss Whedon land that are not so easy to digest and to, take in. So let me just say very quickly what's going on is Joss Whedon's ex-wife, Kay, came out, I think it was last week, was it?
It was, I believe it was Sunday night, so we're talking
just
about...
Sunday night. Wow, it feels like a whole month has gone by with the amount of crazy reactions we get everywhere. Like the internet exploded over this. She came out
I think for some of us it's an emotional crisis, which is why it feels so loaded and yeah.
Oh, for sure. Of course. I feel it, you feel it, everyone seems to have some sort of emotional reaction to it very strongly. And that's because, well, maybe I should say first, if you're not into that fandom or world and you don't know, I should just say that Joss Whedon, who was always like heralded as the number one feminist creator out there. He did so much to put women in the front and center of creation on TV. He thought out Buffy, which was a huge deal. It's a huge thing to have a room full of people, very capable characters, and the person that is at the head of that is the one that they all look to for, what do we do now, Buffy? Is that little girl, quote unquote. Is that little blonde girl that in any other media didn't get that much power given to her. So he did that, and he was one of the first people to put a female character in the front and center and in the very heart of power. And that made a huge difference and changed the way TV works and was very, very significant to a lot of girls and women and boys and gay people and everyone in the community that loved that show so much. So, and he said, he had a lot to say about it. He was like the champion of equality now, a very worthy cause.
Yeah.
Still bringing education and trying to help girls in impoverished places to get ahead in life. So, they gave him awards and he was very, very big in that show.
Yeah, he's perceived as an activist, now with, at least here in the US, with everything that's with the pre-election of Donald Trump. He was very outspoken about his feelings, or his not very positive feelings about him, about Trump, and trying to, do whatever he could to prevent the outcome of these elections. So, he's presenting, and that's the core issue that I'm sure we'll discuss. He's presenting himself to the world as someone very progressive, very
liberal,
bold, feminist. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very left-wing, very broad-minded person. And beyond that, putting the feminist issue aside, it's very hard to separate the persona of Joss Whedon from that, but let's just put it aside for a second. He is such a big person in Geekland and in fandoms. People just love him because he is talented in a way that we rarely see. He's an auteur, he is a creator, he's an amazing writer, truly amazing. He is an amazing director, time after time.
Say what you will, at the very least, he's extremely smart and knowledgeable.
Yes.
And that's sometimes hard to, come up against because he seems to always have an answer. And I think this is also why, people had such a hard time accepting certain truths.
Yeah, which we're going to get to in a second. So he is really good at what he does. And he is very influential. And he is like a big name in the Comic-Con world that today means money. Let's face it. All those cons that like 20, 25 years ago were perceived as this little geeky thing for the geek, let's give them their little corner of the world and we can laugh at them from afar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the biggest event when it comes to pop culture these days.
Right.
And it's definitely a money machine, and it's so mainstream today. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very powerful. It's just funny to me how like fandoms and the world of fan culture and geek culture and whatever you want to call it was an unacceptable, shameful thing until the moment that big companies finally understood how they can make money of it big time. Like the second it became, apparent that this is big box office money, all of a sudden, it's the cat's meow. It's the thing to do. We love it. Yes, we'll go to Comic-Con.
But we also need to consider that social media played such a huge part in it, because there is, right, like creators and cast member, they can communicate more directly with fans. So nowadays, at least I can tell, at least when it comes to like the queer LGBTQ community, you can definitely see like cast members and creators using terms like fan fiction and ships, and it's like you can't even fathom like a decade ago having this conversation.
Yeah, that was the secret language.
Exactly.
That was our super secret language, the ships, and who's your OTP, and now it's like the common knowledge of the business, which is crazy.
Yeah, it has its pros and it has its cons, definitely, but for the most part, it's a whole new world, and I think we're still, and in the eyes of that new world, like people are judged differently nowadays, because there's more access to the information.
Yeah, and going back to the point, in that world, before it got super, super popular, and after it got, when I say popular, I mean like more mainstream. Before it was mainstream and after it was mainstream, Joss Whedon was a huge player there. He had that appeal. We loved him. The fans would follow him. When I say the fans, I mean me. Me and you. I would follow this guy blindfolded in the woods. Like, he could take me anywhere. I'm Joss Whedon, I'm your slave. I'd watch every show, every movie. Mostly, I loved it. Mostly, it was right up there with what I wanted. And he spoiled me. I didn't find the things that I found in his work in other places, which kind of is annoying till this very day. But what happens now, all of a sudden, I mean, I'm not the only one who felt that. He was on a very high pedestal.
Absolutely. Listen, I tell everybody I meet here, like, I learned English watching this show, like watching Buffy, since I was like 10, 11 years old without, subtitles. And it doesn't, when you're at that age, it doesn't just form the language you speak. It really influences your thoughts, and to think that a creation with a strong female character was the show that I've seen growing up was very influential, and like it's such a solid thing in your life that throughout my entire adolescence and going into my early 20s all the way up to the beginning of, like, I'm 30 now, every few years you had something like a new creation of his, and it was a constant in my life. So it's definitely, I'm basically nodding at everything you're saying.
And that's very true. It was a constant for a long time. There was like a thing after a thing after a thing. And then when it was over, I missed it terribly, and I still do. And just saying, me and you, we are both kind of writers. You more than me. You are more professional than I am. You're doing it more professionally. And I have no doubt that the way Joss Whedon writes influenced your writing the same way that it influenced mine.
Yeah, it's not even like a secret. When people ask about influences, I definitely,
First
name drop him. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Because sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that for me, for a long time, it was kind of a www thing. What would Whedon write? And that's how I wanted to write. I wanted to surprise people. When you twist the trope
on its head. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes in a certain way, and everybody think they know where it's going. I like to shift gears and give you what you are not expecting and make you think about it. I learned that from Joss. And dialogue, banter, witty people, that's in the heart of my writing. That's completely, I believe that it comes from
of course,
Joss.
and not just as, showrunner of Wynonna Earp, which we will discuss a bit later. She always names Buffy as an influence, and you can tell, because her lead character, the dialogue, exactly what you're mentioning, like the witty banter, you definitely see that on the show, which is great, and kind of like make you feel fuzzy inside, because it takes you back to your happy Buffy days, and it's, and you definitely have people in this industry who mention him as an influence, so it's absolutely, for sure.
Okay, so all this is to say that the starting point is, even though, here and there's a lot of people who aren't such a big Whedon fans and would like him being taken down a peg very happily. We'll watch that happen. But as a starting point, he was on a very high pedestal. Very hard to knock down. And now what happened is some truths about his marriage and the end of the marriage came to light because his ex-wife felt the need, and I completely understand her, to just say it out loud, to say it wasn't a good marriage. I was being manipulated most of it. 15 years of marriage, and they've been together 5 years before that. So 20 years of a relationship. And she tells us that throughout all that, he used to have affair after affair after affair with, if I got this right, mostly actresses on the sets of his shows.
Well, she also mentioned fans, she mentioned fans as well, which is a big deal because...
Oh, I did not hear that.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
A whole other thing.
We mentioned cast. She mentioned cast members, crew members, and fans over the years, which is, that's the thing. Manipulation is at its essence, an emotional abuse, and
to her.
To her, absolutely. And being with fans him being with fans is a very, very non-subtle, taking advantage of a position of power. We're not talking non-consent here. We're talking what, we perceive as morally right and wrong. And the reason she even came out writing it, many people responded with, she's a scorned woman, yada, yada, yada. She came from a place of saying, this is the man that you perceive in a certain way, the same way I perceived him all these years, and he's actually not that man. And you need to know that he's not that man. That's, I think, the biggest outtake from her post. And she mentioned, that she's been treated for PTSD because of everything. And, it's so understandable. You wake up one morning after 15 years, realize that your entire, the decade...
20, basically.
Yeah, the last 2 decades of your life were a lie. How do you trust people after that? So, first of all, it's very hard to... I'm sure some people will understand the situation better than others, but it's very hard to even understand how that feels like to be in this position.
Her position?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Okay. For a second I was...
No, yeah, absolutely.
I have to say that I'm sure she'll get some mud thrown at her. A bit of it, anyway. Because she came out and said it. I completely understand how, if this is your reality now, and you have to... Imagine breaking up with someone. This is not breaking up, okay. This is... divorcing the man you've been with for the most of your adult life, or all of your adult life, and you have children with him, and you have to sit there and go through your emotional breakdown and watch the world celebrate him and say he's amazing and give him awards for being this big supporter of women. Meanwhile, you've been treated horribly, and the emotional abuse is very, very hard. And how could she just take it? I completely understand why she chose. Look, it took her time. She didn't, she didn't do this
they divorced a few years ago, and she didn't. I feel like, if she was some woman on some sort of
on the rampage,
on a quest for vendetta, she would do it right away. It doesn't feel like she did it to drag his name in the mud, even though she does mention she helped him throughout his career. She was the one who actually pushed him to make Buffy into a show after the movie was such a huge success. So, she was definitely an anchor in his life, someone who supported him and pushed him, and maybe helped him to make some of the biggest, most important decisions in his career. And she didn't, a day after their divorce, contacted the nearest friendly neighborhood journalist. She waited. And I think this is why, like you said, some people are dragging her name through the mud. I think some people perceive it as gossip, something between, the fact that he did something wrong, but this is between the both of them. But what she's trying to say is, you don't understand. This person has, lived 2 different lives. And I've been lied to for 2 decades, and the person you think you're a fan of...
But you've been lied to is the point. We as a society who worships him, let's say, we've been lied to, and that's her point.
Exactly.
Because her own thing, she's going through it on her own, but I can understand why she can't just sit there and watch this still happening, you know, like, how many more years before this comes out. And, this is the point, I think. I can tell you, I understand the outrage that this news brought on in the world. Like, people are going nuts. And like I said before, it feels like it's been a month because I've been reading so much. And literally, the second this was out, Whedon-esque, which is one of the biggest, I think it's the biggest, still working, still updated websites dedicated to Joss Whedon's work and to him, you know, and everyone who's been in contact with his work. It's been on for 15 years. It's been right there in the middle of everything, fandom-wise. Still keeping going, very beautifully managed, you know, all these years. It's a very good website. I'm a member of it for 15 years. Okay? And, like, I think hours after this happened, they announced that they're shutting down. They were very, very, very upset and sad. You can see it in the tweets. They were like, okay, so this is the end of the world. And so there are 3 people managing this website, and it felt to me like they were saying, looking at each other and saying, what were we wasting our lives on? Who is this person that we loved so much for 15 years? We've been telling the world, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. And it was just a lie.
Listen, I totally get that feeling. I mean, I kind of like avoided publicly commenting on this whole thing since it happened because, first of all, I don't even think I really understand the scope of what it means for me personally yet. Other than the fact that it's very disturbing, but you know, now we kind of forced each other to speak about it. I've been saying, like, it feels like some sort, like, it does feel like a loss, because like I said, it's been a constant, and you kind of like get the rug pulled under your feet, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's something that you can always count on, like. And now I'm like, am I gonna feel different about watching Buffy again? What's gonna happen when when there's a new material of his that's gonna come out? Like, I know for Orson Scott Card, I didn't go see Ender's Game in the cinema. I was like, I don't want this money to go to someone who, doesn't support LGBTQ people and causes, doesn't support, is putting it mildly, he's against it. And I don't know if I can compare. And I don't know that I can't compare, but I'm like, am I gonna in the future go and consume Joss's new work and contribute money that, eventually goes to him? I don't know how to feel about all of this. I know that something shifted. That's what I mean. Something shifted, and like I'm in a bit of mourning here, and I'm dealing with a bit of a loss, and I don't know exactly how and how to feel about it. Exactly. Yeah.
I think everyone feels that way. Some just reacted strongly more than others. I think some people were ready for the hate. They came hate ready. So right now what we're seeing is some very strong reactions out there. I think that the closing, like within less than 24 hours from, the announcement, the closing of Whedon-esque is incredible. It's crazy to me. I understand it. I think they were already like in a place where they were like, well, this is kind of, not the same that it was 10 years ago. It's kind of run its course, but we'll keep at it because there's still people who are very, very... I'm just guessing. I don't know that that's what happened.
With Whedon-esque, what they do is like they give you news about everything that's Whedonverse related. So even if it was like an actor used to be in a show, like it wouldn't be just exclusively Joss. But
But that's the heart of the whole thing, and for them, the heart is gone, and it just happened in a second.
Yeah,
and on the other side, Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, because like you said, with people were ready with bringing the hate, I think people had valid concerns over the years, and would be naive to not at least listen to those concerns and some reasonings and some, themes in the work and his work that were concerning to people. And I think maybe with Whedon-esque, maybe, this was like the last straw. This was like the final proof, while everything else was based on rumors and stuff. This seemed like a very valid, cannot ignore it anymore sort of thing.
I have to say, to me, it felt like they were extremely shocked, as if it's like the first time this came to their attention, and they were like floored by it. The reaction was very sudden and very strong. But I have to say something, because we have to move on to other topics. But actually, we can talk about this for 5 more hours. I have to say that we have to put this whole thing in perspective, okay? What we know right now, and this whole drama, is just about what we know from what Kay said, which is emotional abuse. Granted, I can see that. Affairs for many, many years. All that is very bad. It turns us all off on this guy,
Yeah.
But so far, I'm not hearing anything. That's what scares me. I'm scared for the moment when it comes out that some of these were complete abuse of power on his part. Some of these were sexual abuse, plain and simple. That's what scares me. Affairs, I don't know what that word means, but let's just say that it means consensual, mutual, him and other women who were mutually, consenting to this. And that's fine by me. I mean, it makes him a douche, but it's not illegal. It's not morally wrong as abuse, actual sexual abuse is. And I can live with that. To me, that's gossip. I won't look at him the same way again, but, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing, and I'm not judging that.
Prepare your heart, because I'm not
I can't.
I know,
Don't say it. The fact that you said fans really scared the crap out of me just
and
then.
That was in her
because
post.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, so...
I can't... Really, for real, I will not be able to take it. If that's the case, I'm devastated, and I'm just dead. I can't take it.
That's what I mean when I say loss, and how where do we go from here? Pardon the sarcastic use of, once more with feeling, but
we will never be able to quote him unsarcastically again. Oh, that's so bad. That's like 50% of what I say.
I know. Well, here's the thing. Buffy was a good thing. Buffy was a great thing. He might be whatever you want to call him, an asshole, a douche, a person who abuses his position.
A man. But that's the thing. That's just a man.
A white privileged man at the end of the day. But
a human being.
Buffy is Buffy.
That's true.
This is why sometimes you need to treat a creation, apart from the person. Yes. And
many people worked on it, by the way. Many people. Many people worked on Buffy, by the way. A lot of people wrote Buffy. Not just this one person.
Yeah.
And all of them are flawed. And all of them have things, they wouldn't want you to know about. Because we all do. That's just people. That's what I'm saying. When I'm saying he's just a man, I'm not necessarily referring to him, he's a man. That's just what men do. Although, in a way, it is what men do if they have a chance.
Well, it is what he did, and that's what matters for this discussion,
Yep.
Anyway.
Let's shake it off. Yes, shake that off. I'm sure we'll talk about this many more times.
Yes.
We didn't even talk about the fact that there's now, the backlash is so severe that now someone is putting out a zine. Let's hate Joss Whedon.
I just sent you that link just before
500 pages on how much we hate Joss Whedon, the slime ball.
It's basically a I told you so sort of
thing.
That's
what they call it. That's what they call it.
Because they did. Some of them did tell. Yes. So, what can you do?
That's true. There are a lot of things in the work that is not at all feminist or respectful to women. And we will talk about all that in another show. Because
yes, we will.
Yes, I would like to move on to a whole other fandom, a show that I have not watched, although you told me to watch it a billion times already, and I will. Try to be very minimal with the spoilers, please, for my sake and for listeners.
Well, just this is more for our like short and fun corner, I guess. We wanted to give a shout out to Wynonna Earp, which is finishing its second season this upcoming Friday. I don't think it airs in Israel at all, so you'll need to get on it.
I will find a way.
In some creative way, yes. They just announced during Comic-Con that they've been renewed for a third season. Everybody was extremely excited. I have to say, season 1, you definitely feel the Buffy undertones. You have a, lead heroine that you really love. You love her. The lead characters, the cast, the dialogue were just so much fun. You really fall in love with them. That was enough for me to come back for season 2, which is amazing. I just finished a rewatch of the first 2 seasons just in time for the finale, and I had so much fun, and I really love these characters. So many, pop culture references. This is why I say you would love this show. It has the things that made Buffy magical. You have a female lead who's shooting a magic gun and kills bad guys, demons. And of course, you have a gay couple, a lesbian couple. That's always a wonderful
That's always nice.
Everybody's so pretty and talented. It's really
also
it's
nice.
The best. Yeah, and the showrunner Emily, I hope I'm not butchering her last name. I believe it's Andres. She is so great about communicating with fans. Last year she attended ClexaCon, which we should really talk about at some point. They're doing such a wonderful job. She attended and sorry?
Absolutely next time?
Absolutely next time.
Yay.
Pinky swear, transatlantic pinky swear. And she attended and she asked questions. She asked in a panel like, what would you want me to do? How can I serve your community better? She's very, and she came from Lost Girl, who was another super queer-friendly show. So it's very evident, there's a huge difference between fan service and listening to fans. It's not the same thing. I believe she's still giving us what we need and not what we want. Just so happens that oftentimes that's the exact same thing. And I don't think I've ever seen a showrunner communicating so well with fans. So it's just a joy to also know. Right. Also, it's a joy to know that a woman is running the show, literally, or whatever. And
can I ask you, what's the diversity situation?
I'd say pretty good. I mean, one of the lead male is African American. Maybe he's African Canadian. I actually don't know. The majority is a Canadian cast. I can't speak to the ethnicity of everybody there, but judging by physical appearance alone, it's apparent that it's pretty diverse. Yeah.
Can I ask you about fat people? Anywhere? Always important to me?
No, I understand. At least one that I can think of.
All right.
And it's not in a token kind of way. I don't know, but I don't know what it matters to you that the weight would be discussed or not.
No, not at all. It just has to be shown in a non-comedic way. Like, in the world, people are sometimes and often fat. So I would just like to see it. I like it to be represented, is what I'm saying.
No,
it doesn't have to be an obsession.
I say the same thing about LGBTQ, because if 1 in every 9 people is, a non-straight person, and more realistically it's probably more than that because so many people are in the closet, then if you have an ensemble cast of 8 people, at least one of them needs to be non-straight. And every 8 guest stars, you need to have a guest star that is non-straight. So I totally get what you're saying. We're not there yet, I'm afraid, but this is exactly the sort of show.
It's a start. Obviously, it's an issue that is going to be a problem for Hollywood and, people who make TV. They're going to struggle with this, I believe, more than they will with ethnicity, because there are so many beautiful ethnic people,
Yeah.
People are beautiful across the board. And they don't find people who are overweight, quote unquote, or fat, beautiful. So that's going to take more work to put them in there. But I'm watching. I am keeping my eye on it.
I would say This Is Us is a good show for that, and also Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a good show for that.
No, moving on.
Okay. No, I'm just, if this was the recommendation corner for today, we mentioned Wynonna, and then we snuck a little Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And
you did. I do not recommend that show. I think it's horrible. But it's okay. We don't have to agree about everything.
That's true.
It doesn't matter that I think it's horrible. Most people just love that thing.
Are we talking about, which one of the two are we talking about?
Obviously, I haven't watched Wynonna yet, so I'm talking about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Okay.
Which I love.
Because I also mentioned This Is Us.
Oh, I did not hear that.
Yeah.
I don't even know
3
This
shows.
Is This Is Us.
We'll talk about it later.
We will. Okay, so lastly on our show, a very important and exciting and disappointing little bit of news.
Yeah.
That's it. I said everything there is to say about that. Tell us about it, Chen.
Well, Xena. So the Xena reboot. I believe it was supposed to be the now non-existing Xena reboot. To begin with, people were pretty torn on whether they even are excited about these news or not. I, for one,
Because it's brand new people?
Because, in general, people don't think that everything needs to get a reboot. Which,
That's true.
I generally agree, but I think it's a case-by-case thing. And with Xena, it was very clear that a new generation would get to see, something that I really loved when I was younger. It was very clear. I believe I can't pronounce his name, Javier. I'm sorry. I'd rather not attempt than butcher someone's name because I know what happens when it happens to me. It takes the one time of meeting a person someone in person and ask them, but I haven't got the chance to do that just yet. So he will forgive me. But he wrote for the 100, and he wrote for the 100. He wrote for Lost, and he wrote the wonderful The Middleman, which I highly recommend. It only survived sadly for a season, but it was so great. And he was supposed to be the new showrunner for the Xena reboot, and he was working on the script for the pilot. And he made it very clear that Gabriel and Xena were going to be together, no subtext.
Finally.
I know, a whole new treatment to the thing that, years ago was so trailblazing, and we're now we want to see the thing.
Yeah.
If we don't get to see the thing, there is no point of making the thing,
Yeah, that's true, actually. If it's not right up there, we've had enough guessing it ourselves and looking for clues in the text for subtext. Yeah. We've had enough of that in the original.
Yeah, and nowadays, we live in a time that if this happens, it's queer baiting. You know what I mean? It's not subtext, it's queer baiting. So it's either commit...
And it's cowardly.
Yeah, and exactly. So either commit to it from the get-go. In some shows, people are not intending on that, but it happens naturally. So commit to it rather than take a step back from it. But anyways, I was quite happy when I heard he was going to be the showrunner, and I trusted him and his writing, and I thought it was probably going to be great. And he also is very good about communicating with fans. I had a few conversations with him myself. And he was very...
I never asked him how to say his name.
No.
Never once.
First of all, digital conversations. I can say his first name. That's something.
Say it.
Yes. Well, it's...
He's your buddy.
Sure, yes. But I was very happy, and it was very evident that he's listening to people and, trying to do what's right for this creation and cared about it very passionately because he was a fan when he was younger too. So, and a few months ago he posted that he's not working with NBC anymore due to artistic differences. And Tuesday, the mention that it's dead came out. Someone said on Twitter that sometimes they bury our gays before they even get to air, before they even get here. It's very disappointing. Of course, the natural conclusion of many people is because NBC did not want to put that relationship front and center. I'm not too quick to judge because he was very outspoken about wanting that all along. So
let me just clarify because I'm not sure that was clear. The show he's not going to be the showrunner, or is the show not happening? Period.
So a few months ago he announced that he's not gonna do the show anymore, and then came out the announcement that it's not happening at all. So it's going downhill from there. But yeah, like I said, I choose to believe that it wasn't about, the queer themes. But I feel like at this point we're not gonna know anytime soon. It's at the point that I'm like with many other things, just hoping it will get picked by Netflix instead, and they will let him do. He's on to another project now that he's very happy about. So this is why we can't have nice things.
We put so much on Netflix these days, like everything that we love that gets cancelled. We're saying maybe Netflix will pick it up.
And they're in huge debt, but apparently it's all part of their business model. But that's another conversation for another time.
It's their business model? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're planning on this debt. They're planning to spend a couple of decades in debt and then I don't know. It's very weird. I read a whole article about it, and partially this is why they're canceling some shows now. What doesn't bring in, immediate profit and yada, yada, yada. But again, that's a whole different conversation. Whew. Yes. So to conclude, Joss is a huge bummer. Wynonna Earp is awesome. You should watch it. And Xena is not.
Yeah, at least Wynonna is up for a third season. We don't have to turn to Netflix for it.
I know. I'm so excited. There's just so much heart to this show, and you just see behind the scenes stuff, and you see that cast genuinely gets along well, and the crew as well. And it's just, I think it's a Canadian thing, same goes for like Orphan Black. You've seen all the finale stuff, and I'm like, they probably have something in the water in Canada, just makes them better people.
They are good.
Yeah.
They're very good actors and comedians coming from Canada, always, all through the years.
Yes, and children.
It's a very good place to raise actors. I just remembered when we talked about Netflix, Bajillion Dollar Properties. Do you know it?
No. What is it?
Bajillion Dollar Properties is a show that got canceled just now, and they have a whole third season that's completely shot. They shot it and it's ready, it's edited, everything is done, and it won't get picked up, so they're looking for a new home. So everybody's kind of like, the whole fandom is like really pulling for it to be on Netflix. Like, Netflix is gonna be the savior of everything.
See, but that's another outcome of social media. Like, we're talking about pros and cons, but like, fans make so much difference when it comes to like cancel content, and nothing rings more true to that than I think Timeless on NBC that got canceled and then 3 days later got uncancelled because of the uproar fans made. So who knows,
Yeah, who knows?
Like, this petition might help. This, you never know. At this point, fans
I don't
definitely...
know. I'm a child of Firefly. I have no hope for anything. I am used to disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm really rooting for Bajillion because it's such a funny ass show. It's full of comedians, and it's just to say, if you don't know, I really, really recommend it. It's kind of a parody of all those reality shows about, houses for billionaires. All those shows where it's about... Oh
my god, yes. The Real Housewives of whatnot.
No. The realtors, they're looking for homes for the very, very wealthy. The property, I don't know. That's not the point of it. It's half written and half... Improvised. And it has amazing improvisers there. Mainly, I should really say Paul F. Tompkins, who I love and adore. If you may know him from BoJack Horseman.
Yes, I love BoJack.
Yeah. So he's Peanut Butter. Peanut Butter, is that his name? Yeah.
Mr. Peanut Butter.
Mr. I can't believe I didn't say Mr.
Don't forget the Mr.
I cannot believe I didn't say Mr. And very, very many people that from, their faces from small bit parts here and there, but they're actually comedians working in LA for a long time.
I know exactly what, like your Lauren Pecos, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She was also in Orange is the New Black. She's also there, I believe.
Lauren Lapkus.
How do you pronounce it?
Could you mean Lauren Lapkus?
Yes.
She was in many movies, and she is hilarious. And she and Paul F. Tompkins work together a lot. They're very good friends. These people somehow come from podcasting.
No,
I know them all from podcasts.
He has a famous podcast, right?
World.
And I know Janet Verney, I think, is a guest every now and then, and I love her so much. So I know exactly whom and what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I believe that because this is a show about fandoms, and this is one of my biggest fandoms, we will, not Bajillion, other thing that is connected to it that Paul F. did, we will talk about it in the future. But for now...
I'm always willing. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I kind of snuck it in.
That's okay.
Anything else you wanted to say before we wrap it up?
No, I do not think so.
Hopefully next show, good news. More good news. Less horrible, soul-crushing news.
Yeah.
People, be good. Don't be douches.
It's not as hard as you'd think to just be good.
No. Okay, so I'm Shiri. This is Chen. And Chen, tell us if people want to follow you on shit. Where can they do that?
You can. Well, my website is www.chendrachman, which is CHEN.
Good luck.
I know what can. Well, CHENDRACHMAN.com. What can I do? That's my name. Not gonna change it for anything. And social media. I'm pretty much the same thing on everything, which is Shokoshik, which is SHOKOSHIK.
You know what? We'll just put it in the.
On the thing.
Under the thing. But it's good to say. That's good to say. I recommend you people go and check out Chen, what she does. She's a writer. She's an actress. She's been on shows you might have seen.
Yay!
Yay! And she is funny and gorgeous, and I love her. And
I love you too, Shiri. I know it wasn't, but there we go.
I paused. And I waited. And eventually you said it.
Very subtle hint, yes.
Yes, I'm very subtle. You can follow me on Twitter, but you know what? It's mostly Hebrew, so I don't know why you would, but it's Witch Stuff. WITCHSTUFF. That's my Twitter.
You'll put it down at the thing.
Do not have Facebook, so don't look for me there. But this podcast is on Witch FM, which is the place where all my podcasts go, and you can find that Facebook page and write us stuff there. And don't be daunted because it's mostly Hebrew there, but we do read English, as you might surmise, and we will answer any and every question or comment or slur. Don't write slurs that you write us there or anywhere. And you can also write to an email, witch.fm666@gmail.com. And that's about it. Thank you all for listening to this very first show. Chen, thank you.
Thank you.